How's it going? Corey Lane here from TradersArmy.com. Hope you're doing well. I want to take a little moment here to run through a tutorial using the Thinkorswim platform because I get a lot of questions about, do you guys use scans to help narrow down your focus for what you want to trade each day? The answer is we do use some. How do you set them up? I've never set them up in Thinkorswim before, so I want to basically create a little tutorial and show you guys how to get started with setting up scans. Keeping in mind that there are thousands of things that you could scan for. So I'm just going to kind of get you started here on how to start navigating the scan tab in Thinkorswim. So let's jump right in. So first and foremost, the scan tab is going to be your friend here. Now, there are different types of scans. You can go into Option Hacker, Spread Hacker, Spreadbook, and see kind of where some of the other traders out there in Thinkorswim land are trading. But I primarily want to use this Stock Hacker. The reason I want to use the Stock Hacker is every good option trade starts with a good stock trade. I'll say that again. Every good option trade starts with a good stock trade. So I'm not going to jump into looking for spreads or option trades without first finding a stock that I like the chart setup on. And so I primarily focus on the Stock Hacker, which by default is going to have a few stock filters already built in. So, you know, in order for me to like start from scratch, which is what I really like to do, I'm going to delete all of these stock filters. Okay, so I'm going to start over. I'm going to hit the X mark on the far right hand side of each line itself, and that'll start to delete these filters. Now we've got nothing here. So in this scan tab, I'm now starting with something fresh. Now, whether you're an option trader like myself or you're just a stock trader, I think it's really critical that you start out with a few things that just kind of filter out the thousands and thousands and thousands of stocks that exist for trading on the open market. And primarily, I'm looking for stocks that trade within a certain price range that have enough volume for me to consider it liquid, so I can get in and out of that stock pretty easily. Then on top of that, I personally don't want to trade any stocks that don't have options listed. So I'll show you a way to start looking at how to make sure that those stocks that you're scanning for are also optionable. And then we can take it deeper and deeper from there. But now that I have a clear scan here, first I'm going to start adding filters. So there's a button over here on the far right-hand corner near the top right. It says Add Filter. And so first and foremost, I'm going to add a couple of stock filters. Okay, I'm going to add a couple of stock filters. And the first one is going to be, I'm going to be basing, and you can see, you know, here, it actually gives you minimum price range and maximum price or ask range, minimum and maximum fields. And so first I want to really customize this filter. So first and foremost, I want stocks that are priced. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'll use last price. So the last price of the stock, and choose your minimum price range. Some only like to trade stocks that are trading for $15 or higher. And so if you type in a minimum of $15 and you have no maximum on that, it's going to cut this list down, which basically if you're starting at say $1 or 50 cents, oops, let me try that again. You got 14,000 stocks. Well, if you start at 50 cents and go up to $10,000 a share, that's a lot of stocks to filter through. So some folks will say, well, I want to start at $15. And that immediately cut out almost 10,000 stocks. And others would say, well, yeah, I'm sure there are stocks out there that are $10,000, but I'm going to take that down, and based on my particular account size, position size, risk tolerance, etc., you may be looking for stocks that trade between $15 and $80. And that's going to knock it down another 1,000 stocks. And so that gives you a much lower overall list. Now, my list personally goes from anywhere between $3 a share up to around $150 a share, generally speaking. So that narrowed it down some, but you can see here I still got I got 14,000 stocks I'm going to look at. So set your stock price range first. Then I want to make sure that that stock is liquid. And so actually I'm going to take this second stock one off for a second, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to add a filter, and it's actually going to be a study filter. Okay, now this study filter, I'm actually going to change it to a volume filter. So I want to look for the average volume of a stock. Now, you can choose your period of time here, but on all my charts and on all my scans, I want to look back over the last 50 periods. And when I say periods here, look all the way to the right. This D here represents a daily period of time. Now, for day traders, you may look back over the last 30 minutes, right? So over the last 50 30-minute bars, I want to see volume greater than X. But as a swing trader, for me, I stick with daily time frames on pretty much everything, okay? But you're really, really active intraday traders might look for something on a smaller time frame, and you can make that adjustment there. So over the last 50 days, what am I looking for? I'm looking for volume that is greater than 1 million shares per day on average. Okay. Now, that is going to filter out thousands of stocks and really narrow it down to just a few hundred, because there's a lot of stocks out there, but not a lot that actually have more than 1 million shares per day in volume. And so just by taking these two stock scans alone and nothing else, that's immediately going to, if I hit this scan button, you'll actually see waiting for results. Now we've only got 1,164 stocks to really choose from. And now you can start going down this list and looking at charts on them. Okay, but I want to take this list down even further as an option trader. Okay. Now, if you're not an option trader, you probably wouldn't worry about this next piece, but I'm going to add a filter and I'm going to go to option, okay? You've got fundamental filters, you've got study filters, chart pattern filters, stock filters. I'm going to choose option. And so one of the things that I look for in options, it's kind of the same as looking at volume on the stock, is I want to change this filter to open interest, okay? Now, I'm not looking for any particular days to expiration or any particular Greeks or any particular last price of the option. What I'm looking for is just show me the options that are liquid, okay? And so liquidity is, when I look at liquidity, I look at how much open interest, how many contracts are already open. Are people really trading these options or are they not? Okay. Now, one of the things that has already started to kind of filter out in just these three things that we filtered out for is if you've got a stock that's trading greater than 1 million shares a day on average, and that stock has options on it, it's highly likely to be liquid enough for us to trade both the stock and the option if we wanted to. But I'm going to go ahead and filter this out, and I'm going to say, give me some open interest. I want to see some real open interest. And for me, I start with about 30,000 contracts open interest. Now, this number, to the best of my knowledge, isn't any particular option strike price. It's not a particular options expiration month. It looks at all the options listed on that particular stock. So it's going to filter out all the stocks that have at least 30,000 open contracts currently, looking at all strikes, all expiration dates. Okay. Now, I'm going to take that up to as many as you want. So like there is no maximum here. But just look at this little blue shaded box, right? If I take this and I don't look for any minimum or any maximum, that's a lot of stocks that have little open interest up to a lot of open interest. But if I take that to 30,000, that's going to automatically filter out very few stocks that have that many options on it. So we have right now 1,164 stocks that we could look at. But when I add this open interest filter and I scan again, watch how many this filters down to now. Now we're down to 112 stocks to look through. Now, from here, this is usually my primary scan that I use. I usually stay right here. I usually do not scan for much further reduction, because I can look through 112 stocks in about 15 minutes. And I can find usually 3 to 4 stocks, 5 stocks maybe, that give me an opportunity to maybe build a trade on. Okay. If you wanted to narrow this down even further, you could. There's a couple ways to do that. Number one, what you're looking at right here, look at almost the very top. Okay. I'm looking at all stocks. So scan all stocks. Well, you could scan in a particular watch list, right? So Thinkorswim has watch lists that are already pre-built. You might say, well, scan in just the S&P 500. Where'd that go? S&P 500. Only scan in the S&P 500. Take these parameters, apply it to the S&P 500, rescan, and now you've got 37 stocks to choose from. You could apply that to the NASDAQ, right? So just go down to the NASDAQ 100. So now you've only got 100 stocks in the NASDAQ 100, and if you apply this scan, you're going to end up with 13 stocks to look at. So you're really able to narrow this down to just a handful of stocks that may meet these requirements for you to set up some potential trades on. I personally keep it in all symbols, which technically is going to include stocks, ETFs, futures, you name it. It's all of it. So that's going to usually produce around, I was going to say around 150 stocks. Right now it's producing about 143 stocks. Okay. Some other things that you may want to try to filter out. All right. Let's get creative here. Let me add a filter. I'm going to go down to study here. Now, study filters can go into any indicator, any oscillator, any volume study, any corporate action. So here's one that gets a little bit creative. And that's saying, okay, I want to find stocks that meet all this criteria, that are optionable, that have enough volume, that are very liquid, that are between $3 and $150. But I also want to make sure that this stock does not have earnings anytime within the next, say, 45 bars, right? Let's say you're the type of option trader that likes to, or any sort of stock or swing trader, option trader that likes to hold on to positions for maybe several days to several weeks, and you want to stay away from earnings announcements. You don't want to hold through those. You add something like, hey, keep me away from earnings. So any stock that has earnings within the next 45 bars, don't even show me. Hit the scan button, and it's going to take your 143 stocks and knock it down to 96. And so now this is a list of stocks that you don't have to worry about earnings for the next 45 days, which is kind of a nice filter, especially if you're kind of coming up on earnings season, and you don't want to bother looking at stocks that you're likely not going to be able to trade anyway because earnings is coming up sometime soon. So I won't always keep that particular scan on, that particular filter, but as we're getting closer to earnings season, I'll just add that study to make sure that the earnings are not coming up within the next expiration cycle if I'm looking to trade the next expiration cycle. And you could customize that, as far as you want. Close to as close to earnings as you want, or as far away from earnings. So I'm going to delete that one from now. Let's also get more creative. Let's say we want to add a filter that is a study filter that is a moving average filter. One of the scans that we've used for a very long time to try to find stocks that have pulled back to what we refer to as the bull area or the bear area is we use moving averages. And so if you're looking down at some like a moving average study, first of all, you could check out any one of these. Here's candlestick patterns, which I don't really use too much of those. If you're looking under popular studies, here's the moving average scan that I'm looking for. So you can have CCI scans, MACD scans, you can have a whole bunch of stuff. And again, I can't cover them all because I don't know what you're looking for specifically, right? You may have things that you're looking for in RSI or stochastics that I don't necessarily look for, but maybe you found something that really works for you. So you can really go to town in here for sure. So let's take a moving average scan as for instance and say, I want to look for stocks. So if I'm looking for bullish stocks, okay, I'm actually going to add a couple of moving average scans. So I'm going to add study. I'm going to add popular moving average scan. So here's what I want to actually use two different studies. I'm going to use two different moving averages. Okay, one is going to be the 20 period moving average. One is going to be the 50 period moving average. Simple period moving averages. You could change them to exponential if you wanted something a little bit more responsive. Then you could use exponential, but I use simple for this scan. So if the moving average, which is the 20-period moving average, and I'm going to take this down to 0.01, is trading below, at least just barely below the 20-period moving average, but still above the 50-period moving average, that means that, and I can take, I'll draw on the chart here for a moment. Actually, I don't even need to draw on the chart. I know one that's already there. The QQQ, for instance, that's a stock. If I add the 50-period and the 20-period moving average, the 20 is in blue, the 50 is in red. What do you notice about these? The 20-period is above the red, okay? The 20 is not always above the red, but when the 20 is above the red, we now have a confirmed uptrend. That's why these crossovers for some traders can be very important, because when the 20 crosses back above the 50, it's indicating a new uptrend is forming. When the 20 is trading below the 50, a new downtrend is forming, okay? And so with the 20 stacked on top of the 50, what I'm looking for in a bullish scan is I'm looking for price that has pulled back. It's trading at or below the 20-period moving average, but still at or above the 50. So this is what's referred to as the bull area. So if a stock is trading in this range, I want the scan to tell me that. I want the scan to let me know, hey, look at this stock. It's pulling back to a bullish area. Now, we still want to take the bull area and correlate that to an area of support or demand to give us an indication of where the price may bounce. But rising moving averages, uptrend, give me stocks that have pulled back. And so the QQQs are not going to come up on this list because the stock is not trading below its 20 period. It's trading above the 20 period right now. But if the Qs are ever trading below the 20 but above the 50 still, this will show up in the scan. So let's see what comes up. Let's go back to the scan tab. And so if we scan for stocks that are trading below the 20 period but above the 50 period, this is going to take us down to 9 stocks. Okay, so let's just take any one of these. Let's take JP Morgan here. I recognize that one, or Grab, or Comcast. Okay, so JP Morgan, you'll see here this is what it's scanned for. And it is trading above the 50, and it is trading below the 20, but this is why I want to look at the stock chart before I jump right in and start thinking about trading it. I look at this and I see JP Morgan going nowhere. It's choppy. It's not making higher highs. It's not making lower lows. This would not necessarily be a great setup, but at least it filtered out stocks that are trading within their 20 and 50 period moving average. And so that narrowed down the list a lot. Now, here's a critical point. Let's say that you found a scan that you really, really like, this moving average scan that's for option trades. Here's the important part. At the very end, once you've built a scan that you want to keep, is you come under this menu here. I'm going to scoot this over so you can see it because it's going to give me some menus off to the right. Take this middle little hamburger style menu and save this query, right? Save this as something, right? So bull scan, and you can even date it if you want. Say today, as of today, I'm at May 24th, 2023. And if you want to date it or call it some fancy name, hit save. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, because you don't want to have to rebuild this every time you want to scan for this, okay? And if you want to take this and say, okay, now I want to modify this scan for the bearish scan. So what are we looking for the bearish trend scan? I want to look for stocks that are trading above their 20 period moving average, but below their 50 period moving average. Now, what that means is the stock is in a downtrend. Stocks have pulled back, meaning a bear pullback. It's rallied a little bit, so it's above its falling 20, but it's still below the falling 50. I hit scan just to take a look at how many stocks are in that environment. It doesn't look like it's going to be many. Waiting for results. Sometimes it turns up 0, right? And it looks like it doesn't, it's not returning anything at this point. Oh, there it is. It just took a little while. So 19, right? So we have some good ones here. Let's look at Cisco for a second. CSCO. Cisco. So again, here's, technically speaking, the price is above the 20-period moving average in blue, but still below the 50. We've had a little bit of a pullback in price. To me, I look at this and I say, well, it hasn't pulled back enough in price. I need to see price pull back to around 50 before I'm going to consider any sort of trade. So while it did pull it up on the scan, it's really good to look at the stock and look at the chart and see if it still makes sense. So now I want to save this one, save this scan as the bear scan. Bear scan. Save it. Now, this is going to do a couple things for you. Number one, if you happen to reset this and you reset it and you've got nothing there except for the default, you can at any point go back to that middle little menu here and load your personal scans. So let me scoot this over a little bit more. Load personal. There's our bear scan. There's our bull scan. So when you pull that up, it refreshes everything, brings it all back, which is nice. Okay. Now, what's even cooler about this, okay, because what I like to do is I like to, scan and see how many stocks this brings up and then come over here to the charts and look at each one of those charts. But I don't want to have to go back to scan, look at the symbol, remember the symbol, go back to the chart, type it in. What I want to do is be able to take one of these watch lists over here on the left, and I want to be able to pull a watch list of all the scan queries, right? Of everything that's scanned pulled up. And so I've got a number of watch lists over here that I keep pretty static. This one right here, I'll use this one for instance because I do use this one, and I'll swap out a bunch of different scans here. So basically, I'm gonna close this and start from scratch. So if you've never done this before, come down to this very bottom left-hand corner, hit this plus sign. It's going to ask you, what do you want to add in this left-hand column? So I want to add a watch list. Okay, great. Okay, now that just kind of froze on me there. Okay, it's unfrozen. So, right, by default, it just pulled up the S&P sectors, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this watch list and I'm going to left-click on this drop-down menu. And remember, we named it bear or bull scan. So alphabetically, go under your personal, and you can actually see that it created a watch list out of this. Okay, so if you're looking for bull scans, for instance, I just pull up the bull scan, let it load, and this is a dynamic watch list now. What does that mean? That means that anytime something comes up within that bull scan, right? So here's our load personal bull scan. Anytime new stocks come up in this bull scan, which is going to be daily, even sometimes intraday if prices are moving a lot, it's going to add or remove symbols every time you populate as long as this watch list stays open. So this is a dynamic watch list based upon all your settings in the scan. So now I really don't even have to go back to this scan tab at all unless I want to modify the scan itself, add or remove some of these filters. So now what I can do with my chart is I can make sure that I'm linked to a specific color. I make sure the watch list is linked to the same color. And now I can just go down the list. I can click on the symbol. I can look at the chart and I can deem it, yeah, I like it. I want to investigate this further or move on. And so this is, to me, the easiest way to filter through the stocks that your scan criteria had already filtered out, giving you a much smaller list of things to actually look through on a daily and weekly basis, or however long you decide between each scan, okay? And so that's kind of the gist of that. Again, you can knock yourself out and you can scan for all kinds of different stuff. Adding filters such as fundamental filters. You may actually start to look at more fundamental information like dividend yields, or if you're looking at PE ratios, or if you look at market cap, profit margins, things like that. If you're a fundamentalist and you study that type of stuff and you want to make sure you're looking at some of those stocks that have stronger or weaker fundamentals, you can add those as well. There are so many things that you can do within this scan tab. So I hope this helps you get started in kind of building some scans. You can go bananas on this, and if you have any interesting scans that come up that you want to share with us, then we'd love to see what you've come up with. There's so much out there, and we're happy to share ours with you as well. In the event that you're in the pro member community, then often we'll share scans that we come up with. And if you're wondering, how can I share my scans? How can they share their scans with me? Well, check this out. If I go up under this menu where we were saving and loading, you can share these. You can share them, and it'll give you a URL that allows you to share that URL with your trading partners. We can share them with our community members. Community members share their scans with us, and we can, ultimately find some little great scans by you guys just kind of tooling around out there and having some fun with it. If you have any questions about any of this, hit us up, support@TradersArmy.com. You could always text us at the number at the top left-hand corner of the website, or if you are a member of our Discord channel, then you could hit us up there as well. If you're not a member of our Discord channel, be sure to do so. It's all free. Come hang out with us, chat with us. We're happy to have you. Until next time, take it easy. Bye for now.